it's exactly what I'm going through. It was my, I don't want to say pet project, but for lack of a better word, my pet project for the last week or so. It's actually, in my company, I can have these like really heavy initiatives that have been on the table for months and in years and at times. And then, there's limited time to get to these initiatives, and there's a lot of learning and burden to it. And one of them has been, we rolled out an HR software, I don't know, a few years ago, with the intention of making the process for onboarding and offboarding resources. I say resources because it can include full-time, part-time, and what we call internal and external contractors. So for lack of better words, I'll just say employees now. So we rolled out an HR platform called Bamboo HR, for example, to be our source of truth and the genesis of the resource record, right? So Bamboo has this platform for creating your job listings and then actually syndicating it right from the HR platform to Indeed, Glassdoor, Career Builder, and all these job posts. And then you can take your whole application and candidate process all in this platform and codify your process, and it just kind of keeps you in this application to deal with this workflow, which is wonderful. It does have the second piece of that initiative was onboard training, because for us, and I see this in many companies, especially professional service companies, if you're going retail, it's like here's how you ring an item, here's how you take money, and here's how you give money back, right? And here's how you stock shelves. I mean, not to reduce what people do on retail or other businesses, because I'm sure like inventory, the inventory manager at at Home Depot has quite a project. But for a professional services company, which is like a highly intellectual product, if you will, it's just the onboarding process, or the onboarding is really steep for new hires. So I always wanted to get a learning management platform where we could just, I can't tell you how many times I've trained a new employee on how to create a time entry, because we record our time. All of our time is accounted for because that's a billing item for many of our clients. And it's like
so a quick question on that before you go on. So your time that you're allocating, do you allocate that? So let's say somebody's working half an hour for ABC company specific, one of your clients, and then the next half hour they're working for something that helps all your clients. Is that how you tag it in the system?
Yes. So we track our time as accurately as possible from the client account first back to the general company. So if you're doing some business development effort that is not directly attributable to a client account, then it gets attributed to the parent, our company account. But the time does get recorded because payroll and compensation is linked to employee time. That's one of the KPIs. And for the biggest reason is if besides accountability, time accounting is what allows us to track account profit and loss performance with a high degree of accuracy. So if three staff members or colleagues are having a meeting about a client, one of them may be revenue. Their time entry may be a revenue item, but two other parties may not be billing or invoicing their time, but they still are logging that time. Sometimes we invoice for all three parties. It depends. We have this metric that if it's not bringing direct value to the client, then it's not invoiceable, but we are recording the time, right? Because I'm paying for those resources to talk about that client. So what the client gets invoiced for is not necessarily what I'm paying my resources for, but that needs to be costed against the account so that I can see a true accurate reporting of the profit and loss position. So in order to do that, there's training. There's intense training. Intense. It's 50 minutes. I recorded it last week earlier this week. The training course on how to record time in EVERNET. and that turned out to be a over 50-minute recording training. And I've given it so many times. And by the end of the day, training a new employee, like I'm so exhausted. My vocal cords are literally strained. It's a highly technical process because we're in all of these softwares and things. And for a new trainee who may not have experience in our particular software, it's a very burdensome learning curve. It is a very steep learning curve. So the goal has always been, we started documenting our processes in text form many years ago. So all of our processes are documented in text form in our company knowledge base. But I wanted to go one step forward and say, what if I just built a whole curriculum for all of our processes, our tools, and all of the things that we do in video form? Well, what if I just record this next training with this person and then put it in the curriculum, And so I did that, and I'm nearly done, and that's what I've been doing this week, because our team, we're kind of in growth mode right now. And any of the viewers of our show know that you and I talk about our sales and marketing efforts a lot. And we've kicked that off at the beginning of this year, and we're growing, and we're growing fast. So we're bringing on new people. We're bringing on a lot of new people. And so one thing that I've been working on is building out our training material by recording it in video format and then building that curriculum.
Yeah, that's really neat. And that's one of those things that as you learn it and you work through the process, you're ultimately going to help clients implement that as well. So that's,
yeah, I mean, cool. It's something that our clients could definitely benefit from. But I'm just really thrilled about it, because I'll never have to give a 50-minute training on how to record your time ever again. I'll just assign the training. And the cool thing is, if I can actually assign existing staff the trainings automatically, like let's say every year everybody has to take the training again, or every 2 years everybody has to take these trainings again, just to keep the uniformity up. Because I don't know if you know, like sometimes policies tend to drift.
Sure.
Practices tend to drift, and then it's almost like that game Telephone, where like if this person is starting to drift and then train somebody, and then they train somebody, like this process where like maybe management thinks that it should be happening here, but then like the downstream employees just drift in their implementation of the policy. So the learning management system, I can say like, no, everybody's got to take this training every 24 months or 15 months or something like that. And it just kind of keeps that drift from happening.
Yeah, and that could be the cue for you to say, all right, what's in this video? I got to watch it, and what do I need to change? What sort of policies, procedures, or sort of any HR technical stuff. So that's really neat.
It's exciting. And just one more note on it. The tool that we are using is called TalentLMS.
Okay.
And LMS stands for Learning Management System. And you could actually run a whole like college with this software if you wanted to. But it does have small plans, free plans, and you can run different branches and all sorts of things. So you could build curriculums for clients. You could use it internally, but it's really cool. It has a lot of integrations and mobile apps. It's really a fascinating product. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So while we're on that topic, I wanted to share a piece of software that I guess I'm a little bit past the trial thing. I don't know if I'm on a monthly now, but it's called Motion. It's kind of an AI scheduling type tool. So
oh yeah, you mentioned it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so I've been using it. There's a couple things that I'm not a super big fan of, but overall I like the idea and I like the concept. So basically it's this: you've got your hard-coded schedule. So let's say, we've got this scheduled for 9:30 every week. But let's say I'm going to, work out or something from 8 to 9 o'clock. So but the system knows that, let's say I start my day at 6:30. That's when the wife and Luke leave at 6:30. So I have a bunch of tasks that are saved in there. Some are repeated. So let's say during the first week of every quarter, there's a half an hour project that I need to do. So that's in the system, but it's flexible in that it's not client specific or tied to a time. And that has a deadline of, Friday at 5 o'clock of, let's say, that first week. And then I've got something that needs to be done by next Monday. And then I've got a lot of, let's say, floating tasks, or, by the end of the week, I need to follow up with this person. So you can attach priorities. You can attach the repeatable tasks, like I said, and it will kind of fill in your schedule for you. So you can do 10-minute blocks, 15, whatever, and it will fill in around your general schedule. So, I'm probably like 70% of the way in on it. I know there's some other repeatable tasks, reoccurring, I guess is the correct word. They're reoccurring tasks that I want to put in there, by the end of the year to get those scheduled. Obviously we're starting a new year, starting a new month, starting a new quarter, all that kind of stuff in January. So I want to make sure I get those in there, but it is kind of nice to have those, to have it fill in around your schedule. So the way it works is if you log in at 6:30 in the morning and you suddenly realize that you got an email overnight that there's a fire you need to put out by noon, you can say, all right, I need to do this sometime before noon today. You put the task in, it'll rearrange everything else in your schedule based on the priority. And then,
does it communicate to any external parties or
no,
meetings?
because it doesn't move any of your fixed stuff. I mean, if you're part of a team, you can add team in and assign tasks and that sort of stuff. But so it's kind of interesting. I know there's some other similar type programs. I think Monday is something that does, but you're connecting you're logging in with your Microsoft ID, so it connects to your calendar. So if somebody goes on my Calendly system and books an appointment, that goes on my Microsoft schedule. And then so Motion knows that that's now a new hard appointment for 1 o'clock on Tuesday. So it'll move other stuff around.
Are you seeing immediate value with it, or are you still trying to suss out the value?
I have, in that sometimes what I want to do in the morning sometimes isn't what I should be doing or what I have to be doing. So it's nice that it kind of pre-populates that. It's, and I know a lot of people have actually used it more for kind of self-care or maintenance or that kind of stuff. So they'll say, I need to do 15 minutes of meditation every day. But I don't need it to be every morning at 8 o'clock, so they'll put that in there as a daily priority and then kind of let Motion do the rest. So I've actually seen that, people use it in that way. I'm not that far yet. But I do like the concept of it. And for me, the way my brain works, it seems to sort of help me out there and prioritizing things and all that kind of stuff. So just figured I would share that with the group. So maybe I'll check back in a couple of weeks and let you know how that journey's going.
I like tools like this, and I'm always slow to adopt them because I always view this as tools like this, like my photos library. I have my family teases me because I'm always taking photos of everybody and everything that we're doing. But I always look at tools like this where it looks like there's a little bit of automation and logic to it, or automation or AI. I hate using AI if it's not AI, but I look at it like those apps that proclaim to find duplicate photos in your photo library and clean and call out, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
nope.
Right, exactly, right? Like, no, I think I have like 60,000 images, right? Like, would you just turn that over to a computer or AI? Like, they've just proven to not be good enough yet. And then with this software, when it comes, this is like task management. Like, I've had tasks literally on my Outlook for years, like years. And it was only until maybe the past 2 years, maybe 3 years, where like I finally developed the maturity to say like, oh, if I'm not doing it within like a month, I'm not going to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like I'm a reformed hoarder personally. Like when I was a kid, my mother died when I was 10. So like I started hoarding like all this stuff, and that's what people do when they suffer hoarders experience a major loss, and then they start
Mhm.
collecting things to try to control and preserve. Anyways, when I realized in my 20s, I was like, oh my god, I have all this stuff from when I was a kid, like this, and then I learned about it, and now I'm a reformed hoarder. So like now I don't keep anything. I was like a task hoarder.
Yeah,
I had
sure.
all these tasks, but then at the same time, like I won't do what I'm not going to do. So does the software put these tasks in front of you that you just kind of keep kicking down the
Yeah, so you could have a start date and a due date. So that's happened to me already in just the 3 or 4 weeks, or I've put something in there that was maybe just an idea, and obviously there's a mobile app as well. So if I'm out somewhere, I'll have an idea and I'll put it in as like a 10-minute task, just so it puts it on my calendar, and then it'll pop up. I'll move it, pop up, I'll move it, and I'll say, you know what, I like this. Let me file away. It's just not a now project, so then I can just kill it or mark it as complete or
right.
whatever. But it gives you a chance to kick the can a few miles down the road, but not all the way. So,
Uh,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, you can sort of change that and whatever. But yeah, same sort of thing. I don't like to let ideas go away, or I don't like to say I can't do that or won't do that. But at some point, I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. So,
So true.
um,
I tend to
um,
email myself. I email. I've been using this subject line called topic,
mm,
and I'll email myself with the subject line topic full colon, and then I'll just whatever the idea is, and then if I have a notes, I'll just email myself.
mhm,
Because the indexing and searchability of email is so good now
it
that if
is.
and then I use the read and unread state of my email as my honey-do list or to-do list,
Yep.
and and uh, and that's what I do. So like if I send myself an idea or a to do and I keep it as unread, and I generally like to get my stuff done, so I move things to read. If I'm not doing it and I want to kick the can, I just mark it unread, and then it's just
Mhm.
there. And if I ever want to go like I need something to do, or I remember wanting to do this sort of thing, I can just research topic, and then I can kind of pull up all my topics, and then which I guess the to do function would work in the same exact way. I tend to live kind of out of email as a primary tool.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, email's still where it's at. Yeah, I'm the annoying guy that when I'm driving, if my wife's in the car, I'll almost always drive. Not because she's a bad driver, I'm just a bad passenger. But I'm the guy that's like, oh, Lauren, can you text me this? Can you text me this
Yeah,
as I'm
yeah.
driving? I'm that guy, which I know is super annoying. I wouldn't like it. But I
I've
do it
asked
anyway.
my wife to do the same thing
Yeah.
numerous occasions.
Yeah, or I'll even say like, so we'll send each other calendar invites for like actual like specific things, but I'll be like, all right, can you put something in my calendar for next Thursday or whatever. Um,
Do you have Apple Play or CarPlay or Android Auto in your car?
so yeah, yeah, long story. But so when we bought our Volvo, it was the first wave of that new like redesigned model that people liked. So Volvo had the big boxy like XC90 and whatever for a lot of years, and then they switched to the more streamlined one. So when we got that, the guy was like, "Oh yeah, this is the system and everything. It's got to have Apple Play and Google Play, and it's coming out. Just let us know. Come back, get the update. Come back. Let us know." And we were sold on that, and we didn't like get anything in writing or whatever. And then when we came back for our first service, I was like, oh yeah, you can add these to our system because they were now available. And then they wanted to hit us for, I don't know, $350 or something. I was like, yeah, your guy said that this wasn't available yet, but it was going to be available. And they're like, oh, do you have the documents? It's like, all right, whatever. So just out of pure spite, I'm not going to get those for the
You don't
car.
throw away Christmas trees, so you're not spending 350 on Android
Well, it's
Auto.
just, yeah, I mean, and I'm sure it would add some sort of value or whatever, but it's not that big a deal for us. Like
Oh,
we play music off our phones sometimes, but for the most part, we're I mean, we can do it. We can use a voice command on both of our phones to do whatever we need to do anyway. So I'm sure there's some sort of advantages there, but this doesn't really interest me. So
I
you hit
use
on a
the
sore spot for me.
Sorry about that. I mean, I've been dreaming about this for years. My car is a 2008, so it's a 14-year-old Pathfinder. And I've never had Bluetooth in a car before, other than the one I've added. So it's kind of funny. But for years, I'm like, I've been using the location field in my calendar for years, right? Because the cool thing is when all the mapping and the smartphones started saying, wow, okay, if you do populate the location field, when you want to go to navigate on your mobile device, we can have an API hook where if we read a location, you can send that to your mapping app, and then and it kind of helps you get to where you're going easily. Kind of, it's an easy workflow, right?
Yeah.
And then for years, I'm like, oh my God, it'd be amazing if cars would come out with like well, back then it was a Microsoft Exchange. I was like, why? They need an Exchange client in the car. So when I get in the car, it's reading my calendar, which reads the location data, which will then tap into the mapping. But that turned out to be in the form of, I think, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And now I just dream about the novelty of what that must be like for all those people who have that.
Yeah. I mean, the voice commands sort of, so we have, the navigation system in the Volvo, but all the car navigation systems are terrible. I mean, the ones
they're
on the
awful.
phone are infinitely better. So we
But the
never
Android Auto and the Apple CarPlay bring in your mobile phone experience
do.
on that display.
Yeah, they do. But we use our phones when we're traveling anyway, just because it's easier to, I mean, it's easier to do it on your phone anyway. But yeah, same sort of thing. I put the location in if I'm meeting somebody, and then, as I'm walking out the door, I'll just, the alert pops up that says, hey, you got to go meet Eric in 15 minutes anyway.
Well,
So I just click on that.
what if the phone stayed in your pocket, it stayed in your briefcase, in your coat, and then your phone display applies to your screen, and then there's my calendar, there's my location, pull up you're an Android guy, right?
Yeah.
So bring up your Android, whatever.
So, so riddle me this potential failure in that system. So my office is above the garage. It's, connecting part of the house. So I've had times when I've gotten in my car, see that my phone's connected, left, got a couple of miles down the road, and realized I don't have my phone with me, So, I mean, that does happen. So at least I know if it's in my hand and I'm doing whatever, so there's still an advantage to doing that. But
okay, old school. I'll let you have it.
Yeah. So it's funny, sometimes when I'll get in the car, my wife will be on the phone. I'll pull out of the driveway. Now I'm listening to her phone call until I get to the end of the driveway. It's just, and supposedly when I'm in the car with my key, the car is supposed to know that it's me and connect to my phone. But again, theory versus practice. So
right.